In this video, I want to discuss some important considerations for purchasing condominium units, and I also want to discuss some of the dangers when purchasing condominium units. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, my original channel. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Well, I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy out there. There's a lot going on. This is a Thanksgiving week, I'm sure, unlike any other. And it's unlike any Thanksgiving week that any of us have experienced. Let's see. So on this channel, I have 4 channels now. So I normally front the videos over here by saying that over here I discuss general topics, thoughts of the day, personal stories, and I talk about sometimes financial literacy and money, and in some instances business. And this channel right now is very much in the spirit of the Bruce Williams show, which I've talked about here on Big Discussions 76 as an inspiration. And I recently found that he was an inspiration for another content creator who I listen to quite a bit on YouTube as well, the Black Authority and the Business Channel, run by a gentleman named Jason Black. He discussed how Bruce Williams was an inspiration for him as well, and how we need more content creators to just discuss things like real estate and money, and how to succeed and how to get ahead no matter what track you're on. Money is something that affects all of us, and personal finance and business is something that affects all of us. So in this video, I had been discussing some election stuff, and I want to go back to that at some point because I have a few more things to say about what happened and what's going to happen going forward. But the last 2 videos involved money. One was in an interview with a gentleman named Ramil Amir, and then I shot a follow-up video on mortgages, and something we often don't think about when applying for mortgages and what happens when we get them. In that video, I discussed I suggested I might shoot a video just on some of the issues and dangers of purchasing condominium units, and then something interesting happened. I got a request underneath the video to shoot this video right here on condominium units, and I replied to that individual that I would, and yesterday I received a donation for this video. And so this is the first time someone has requested a video and also provided a donation for it. So this is a first, and this is huge. So I want to acknowledge, I believe, Keelan Strong. I believe that's his first name, Keelan Strong. Thank you. And I think at this point, I'm going to, as a YouTube content creator, I'm going to implement the Ron Wills / Aaron Clary clause, which is, if you have topics that you want to ask me about, and if you have topics that you want me to talk about, I'm happy to do it. And obviously, if you make a donation as Keelan did, it will get expedited, because I have a lot of things that I want to shoot and things that I'm thinking about shooting. But obviously, if there's payment for it, it'll get fast tracked and it will work its way to the top. So I want to acknowledge Keelan for that. And I was also thinking that as a YouTube content creator, there have been times when I've been taken out to the woodshed for being too long. And there have been times when I've been criticized for my videos being too long. But I'm going to take my time with this one, as it's a very important topic. And as I'll describe, it's something that hits close to home. And it's something that I still think about daily. So with that, let's jump in and talk about some important considerations for purchasing condominium units and some of the dangers when purchasing condominium units. Now, so before I start the specific discussion on condominium units, I'm going to front this by saying that, as you all know, I was a writer before coming to YouTube, and I have a blogging platform, and there is actually a series on this very topic about important considerations when purchasing condominium units. I'm going to show, it's a three-parter. I'm going to show that during this video, and I'll probably end up showing some other blog posts that are relevant to this discussion. But as I was thinking about shooting this yesterday, it occurred to me that there's another one which goes along with this, and it's entitled The Difference Between Being Cheap and Frugal, or the difference between being frugal and cheap. And so the reason that goes along with this is because at that time when I purchased my condo unit, I was seeing someone, and if you've ever listened to the Roger Reports panels, I discussed the significant other I was seeing at that time, and this individual called me cheap at that time. I've been very outspoken about the fact that both of my parents were savers and are savers, and at that time I did not have my finances under control. And what I realized is that the net of it is, as another content creator says, is that when you go into home ownership, well, and home ownership is relative, I would encourage you to go watch Savings Minus Debt for more discussion on that. You know, there are a lot of people who believe you don't actually own the property until you pay the mortgage off in full, and then even still you have to pay your property taxes. But that's an aside. When you go into home ownership, and I'll describe this later in this video, it's important that you run a budget surplus. So in other words, it's important that you have money left at the end of the month and after every paycheck, once all of your bills are paid, versus running a deficit. And I didn't understand money in its entirety at that time, and because I was a saver and I was frugal, this particular significant other called me cheap. It's something that I struggled with. It's something that hurt me at that time. But when you're a home owner, when you get a mortgage and you get a detached home or a condominium unit, it's critical that you keep extra money on hand in an emergency fund, as Dave Ramsey calls it. There are going to be things that are going to need maintenance within your unit, and as I'll describe, there may be instances where you'll need to pay money or make contributions to your condominium community for things outside of your unit. But I'm saying this to say that there's often a conflict in relationships when it comes to money. In many instances, one person wants to spend. The other person wants to save. I think you need some mixture that's going to fall on the side of the saving. And if you're with someone, whether you're a man or a woman, who's causing you to run a deficit, then you have some hard decisions to make. After what I've been through, I know what that decision is now, but I can't tell everyone what to do with their specific lives. So I'll probably leave my budgeting blog post in the description box below as well. But let's jump into my discussion about condominiums right now. So I think one of the first things you need to keep in mind when you're going to purchase a condominium unit is what exactly a condominium unit is. If you look at most of them, they're in complexes, and so I believe most condominium complexes were at one point apartment complexes where there were renters in all of the units, and then something happens where maybe whoever owns that complex either sells it or decides that they want to make it a dwelling where there are owners of those units within that complex. So it's a complex where individuals own or have mortgages on those individual units. And so based upon that, everyone is connected, as I'll describe. And while you own what's considered walls in, you're also sharing things walls out. You're sharing the roads, you're sharing, in some instances, the plumbing. In some instances, you're sharing the HVAC. In some instances, you're sharing the roofs. And you're all sharing the same garbage pickup. You're sharing the lawn care. And in many instances, there are rules that you all must abide by when staying and living in that complex. Let's see, what else? This house that I'm in right now, this is not my actual condo unit. This is the house I grew up in Buffalo, starting in middle school. This is a detached home. So this home has its own driveway. It has its own garage. It has a front yard and a backyard, and there is a trash pickup day. But the owner of this home, the owner who is one of my parents, pretty much has the ultimate say over what happens with this property on the inside and on the outside. Condominium complexes are not like that, and actually a lot of subdivisions aren't like that. There are rules for living in many subdivisions where there are detached homes as well. But that's what you're purchasing into. That's what you're buying. You're buying into a community, and there are very, very unique things that can happen when you buy into a community where you're sharing ownership of the entire community with other people. And I'm going to talk about that towards the end of this video. When going to purchase any piece of real estate, but in this instance a condominium unit, it's very, very important that you do what's called your due diligence. And if you read any real estate book, that term comes up, and that basically means you are kicking the tires and you're trying to figure out if there's anything wrong with the property itself, or if there are any legal encumbrances or any negative legal attachments to that property. So when you go to purchase a property, you go through a title company. The title company is basically a lawyer or a team of lawyers, and their job is to search the title for your home to make sure there are no encumbrances attached to that title, such as another owner who you may not know about, or some sort of lien against the property. So that's what your title company is for. As I was doing all this, as I was learning to invest in real estate, I never heard the term before, but that's what that is. So you're paying professionals to do that. But when you're purchasing a condominium unit, you also need to get an inspector to take a look at the structure to see if there's anything wrong with it. If there are things wrong with it, you can negotiate with the seller ahead of time to either get those updates made before you sign off on the property or to knock the price down. That's what that home inspection does for you. I think they also have ways of testing for one of the inert gases. I think it's radon. It's either radon or freon. In any case, for condominium units, there's another piece of due diligence that you have to do. And I didn't do this before I moved into my condominium unit. So you're buying into a community, and that community is run by a board. Most condominium associations have a president, a vice president, a treasurer, all those different things, and it's their job to run the community and to oversee the financial health of the community and to make sure that it's in good standing with the state, the county, and also to make sure that everything is up to code, and it's their job to make sure that everything is safe. There's usually an office where there are individuals running the day-to-day operations of the community, such as maintenance, such as making sure everyone's has parking passes, and making sure that no one's parking in the community that doesn't belong there. In some instances, they will revoke the parking privileges of unit owners who haven't paid their condo association fees. So you have a board of directors who's running the complex and the community, and then you have workers under them who are seeing to the day-to-day things, such as repairs and other little things. And so when you move in there, or when you're in negotiation with the seller to move in there, one of the things I highly recommend is going to the office and or tracking down a member of the board and you should try to assess the financial health of that community. And this was actually written in one of Susie Orman's books. Before you go in there, before you move in there, try to gauge what's happening at that complex. Is it a healthy complex? Are there a lot of foreclosures in there? Are there a lot of delinquent homeowner association fees? Is that community on the verge of going bankrupt? Are there a lot of renters versus owners in that community? That has an impact on what it will be like living there on a day-to-day basis, because renters tend to treat their properties differently, and they tend to live differently than owners do. But also, when you go, and if you go to refinance your mortgage, one of the things the mortgage company is going to try to determine is how many renters are living in that community. And the fewer renters there are in there, your lender will look more favorably on that, as opposed to having more renters in that community. And in some instances, investors look to snatch up units in condominium associations and communities, because those make for nice rental properties, or they can. I believe Robert Kiyosaki author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and who at one point was very, very bullish on real estate investing. In a recent video, and probably in several videos, I heard him say some unfavorable things about the condominium associations in terms of getting the necessary information out of them before purchasing a unit. So in some instances, I guess associations don't want to divulge certain amounts of information, and they're very cryptic about what gets leaked out. But as a potential owner, you need to know what's happening in there before you sign on the dotted line. So in summary, you really have to do your due diligence. All right, so now let's talk about the overall health of a condominium community and you doing your due diligence before you move in there. So I'm going to tell you what happened to me over the last 12 years since I've been in my condominium community. When I purchased my unit, or when I qualified for the mortgage on my unit back in 2009, I was looking for a couple of things. I wanted to be close to my job. In the Washington, D.C. area, we have a metro, and I wanted to live close to the metro. I had an older car at that time, and when I saw the listing come up, I told my agent, hey, yeah, put an offer out for that one. That's right next to the metro, and I have an older car, and if my car goes down, it will be highly advantageous to live next to the metro because I'll still be able to get to work and those kinds of things. And for 8 to 12 years, that was the case. I didn't own a car. I recently got one because of COVID, but I went a while without car ownership because over the last 12 years, I had to figure out how to manage my personal finances. And I've written about that in numerous blog posts. I will leave those in the description box below in case you want to read them. But I'm saying this to say that those are the main things that I was looking at when I was going to make this purchase. It was an exciting time. It was my first ever mortgage, and so that was a big deal. And just getting the mortgage and finding a property and becoming a first-time home buyer was a really, really big deal. But let me tell you what happened after that. So the thumbnail for this video is the front of my condominium unit. And I'm going to show it again right here. And then what you see is you have a lawn, you have a walkway, you have a lawn, then you have another walkway going further and further down the hill. When the first time I went to take a look at my unit, all of that was dug up and excavated. And actually where you see that walkway, that pavement, there was a bridge going from the sidewalk in the parking lot to the entranceway of the units. And so where you see the grass, that was all dug up. And there were trenches in there, and there were construction vehicles everywhere, bulldozers, those scooping devices. All that was there, and there were workers working diligently. And when I saw it, I didn't think that much of it, and I went into my unit, took a look around. The inspector said this is a good location. This checks out. And so when I went to settlement, okay, let's go back. Before going to settlement, I received Condo Docks, which were in a binder just like this. And in those Condo Docks were, there was information about what was happening in the condominium complex at that time, projects they were working on, and little facts and factoids about the complex. Um, I was so busy doing different things. Me and my significant other at that time, we were pretty heavy into salsa dancing, and we were traveling. And I think at that point, I was experimenting with a network marketing company, and I was just doing so many things that I didn't take the time to sit down and read the Condo Docks. I went to settlement with the current seller, whom I will name anonymously Mimi. And Mimi sat across the table from me, and I remember asking her, "Hey Mimi, what's happening at the condominium unit? Why are they doing all that digging and excavation around the building?" Mimi smiled at me and said, "Oh, they're just doing some foundational work." Okay. So I shrugged my shoulders, said, "Okay, they're doing some foundational work. That can't be bad. I'll move in, and everything will be peachy." Probably about 4 to 5 months after moving in, I got a notice from the association saying that I owed an assessment for $8,500. What an assessment is it's a sum of money that your condo association can mandate from you if it's in the bylaws of your condominium association. If it's in the bylaws, if there's a budget shortfall somewhere that's going to impact the entire community, they can mandate money from all of the owners. So suddenly, or seemingly suddenly, I owed the association $8,500. And the reason for it was because of the building underpinning project, which is what they were working on when I first got to the property. That's why they were excavating. It turns out that the building I moved into, it sat on a hill, and the building was sliding because there was clay underneath, and that building was sliding, and it was becoming a safety hazard, and the county was going to implement sanctions on the community if they didn't get that fixed. So they hired a company to dig up around that building and pin it and stabilize it, and which was very costly. And so this was just around the time of the Great Recession, and President Obama, bless his heart, in his administration, they were giving out those Obama first-time homebuyer tax credits at that time. Coincidentally, which were for me was $8,500. And what I'll always remember about that is that money, that $8,500, literally went into my palm and went back out like this. I never got to keep that money. I never got to do anything with it, and it went straight to that project. And what's interesting is that the association probably knew somehow, at least, that I was a first-time home buyer and that I would be getting that. But I'm saying that to say that it's a blessing that I had the Obama tax credit. Otherwise, I would have had to have come up with that some other way. But it was quite sobering to have to pay that money out after just moving in. There was another assessment shortly after that for $1,600 because many of the unit owners were delinquent in their fees, and the association had to make up the difference somewhere, and they had to spend time and money hunting down those unit owners who had moved out and who hadn't paid. Now here's the other thing. When you go and do your due diligence and try to find out what's happening with the complex, if previous associations don't steadily raise the condo fee as the years go on, and if they don't maintain the property as the years go on, that will eventually catch up with whoever is in the the association and the community at that particular time. Unfortunately, everything wears out. Roofs wear out, piping wears out, drywall wears out, everything wears out, and everything has a life eventually. So you want a condo association that's keeping up with inflation and keeping up with raising the condo fee. It sucks to raise the condo fee, but again, everything has a life, just like your car, just like our bodies. Everything has a life, and everything wears out eventually. In the previous condominium associations that were over my community before I moved in, they didn't do that, and it all caught up to us right around 2008. So there was the $8,500 assessment. There was the $1,600 assessment for the delinquent homeowner association fees as well. And then years later, there was another $8,500 assessment. I did not pay that one in its entirety. I paid $2,500 of it. I, thought I was being smart, and I asked my uncle for a $6,000 interest-free loan because I was overextending myself in an engagement, a marital engagement that I was in at that time. I could only pay him back in little bits and pieces, and he eventually forgave that $6,000, to which I will always be thankful to him for. And if you're thinking about getting married and engaged, you should read that blog post as well, so you don't overextend yourself. But I'm saying all that to say that this can happen if you move into a condominium complex. The amount of money that was paid out for these assessments, that was enough for a new car and then some. That was a lot of money. That was over $10,000. That was $10,000 to $20,000. So that's the importance of doing your due diligence before you move in and understanding what's happening there before you move in. And the seller, she knew what was going on. She knew that business was going on, and that's why you have to do your due diligence, because sellers, you never know what the seller is running away from. And this money, real estate, this is all a game. And for the seller, the game is often to get out of the property with doing the least to it, and maybe leaving surprises to you, the buyer. So your job is to do your due diligence to figure out what's wrong and what may be wrong before you move in and sign on the dotted line. Because once you sign on the dotted line, you're a part of the group, you're part of the community, and you're liable for whatever's happening. So I think that concludes everything that I wanted to say. I'm going to leave all of those blog posts in the description box below. Those are important considerations for purchasing condominium units in my experience, and those are some of the dangers of purchasing condominium units. They told us, at the annual meeting one year that prior to my moving into the community, things had gotten so bad that at one of the annual meetings in previous years, fist fights broke out, and the police had to come and restrain certain people and remove certain people. And when you're dealing with people's money and their financial futures, things can get that bad. Things can hit close to home, and some people are down to survival. And I hope that I've communicated that to you, that when you become a homeowner, you want to keep yourself as liquid and as solvent as possible. You might have to make some decisions on your spending. You want your budgeting game tight. You might have to make some decisions on your personal life. But the decisions you make as an individual can affect the community that you live in, and likewise, the decisions of the other homeowners in the community can affect you as well. Because when you buy into a condominium complex, you're buying into a community. So do your due diligence, kick the tires, ask questions, and find out what you need to find out. Don't leave any stone unturned. So, Keelan Strong, I hope that prevents you from going through some of the things that I went through, and I hope this helps you make a wise choice and keep yourself out of some bad decisions. If you have any video requests for me, I'm going to leave my Cash App and my PayPal in the description box below. This was a lot of fun. This is a topic that's hit close to home. And I may have more. I'm still in that complex, and I may have more stories going forward. So I'm going to stop this here. This one went a little long, but it was well worth it. Please like this video. Please share it. And please subscribe to my channel. If you know someone else who's thinking about buying a condo unit, please share this. No one, my mother nor my father, had bought condo units before, so they couldn't really guide me in the nuances of buying into a condominium complex. So with that, I'm going to stop. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.